Growing concerns about the implications of the recent unrest and its impact on gender-based domestic and intimate partner violence in affected areas. There are reports that gender-based violence services in KwaZulu-Natal have been disrupted and shelters are surviving on limited resource, with many running out of basic essentials. For more on this, I'm joined now by the social worker and manager at the Kerr House, Gail Scheider. Gail, good to have you with us tonight here on In Focus. Talk to me about the impact that you have seen on your services in the last week or so.
Good evening, Thabo and the viewers. Yes, of course, with any unrest or with any form of disruption, we also as a shelter experienced disruption in our service delivery. So for instance, with the violence, when the violence escalated 2 weeks ago, many of our frontline workers, staff couldn't attend the shelters, so we couldn't be present at the shelters itself. And that in itself was a massive problem because we already had people in the shelters that are highly traumatized. We also in a COVID season, there's been limitation in terms of movement, and now we had added stress and anxiety with the unrest. So for us, in terms of psychosocial services, it created tremendous pressure on the social workers to provide services during this time.
Yeah. Talk to me about the food security and how that impacted on the services of the shelters.
Well, initially with the lockdown, we didn't know where we were going to get our supplies from. We had mouths to feed and we weren't sure of how we will access the foods. You all saw the long lines for people queuing up when they eventually could get food. We were, at least our shelter, were fortunate enough that we had adequate supplies at the time, but we were concerned of, when we run out, how are we going to secure and how are we going to be able to manage the food and the supplies for our residents. So it was initially quite a stress factor for many of us.
Now, with the heightened tensions, of course, came restrictions of movement within communities. How did that confine the clients or those who are supposed to come and get services from you?
Well, as I said earlier, a lot of the frontline workers couldn't be at the shelters, so for them already there was a breakdown in services. It created anxiety, it created fear. People were already traumatized. We saw the looting happening right outside our premises. There was a lot of fear and concerns. So I think from a point of understanding, it was unprecedented situation that we didn't expect and we were not prepared for. And I think for many of the social workers working in this environment, it added a lot of stress that we were not prepared for. And I'm quite concerned about the longer term effects because we're also still dealing with the anxiety of COVID and the restrictions that COVID had brought along, and now with the rioting happening, we wouldn't allow anyone to leave our site. They were not allowed, so they were basically locked up for the whole week. We didn't allow anyone to go in or out because we wanted to protect them. We were not sure what would happen, so we had to protect our residents.
Yeah. And how are you mitigating against such issues? I mean, for questions of security, I'm sure many of your staff and many of your clients still feel security threats, I suppose, still moving around.
I believe that there's still a serious concern regarding that. I think for us, we feel that there is a little bit of calm right now, so we kind of walking on eggs, if I can put it that way. But I think in terms of the general feeling, it feels like things are slightly coming back to normal at this point in time. At least we hope it will return to normality.
Yeah. And of course, part of your plans is the question around the fundraising and how that has been affected also during this time. I think with many businesses also being hit at this particular point, so they are not in a good position as opposed to continue to support you. But not only that, COVID has also restricted a lot of economic trade at this time. How are you mitigating and intervening in that score?
Thabo, absolutely. I think for many non-profit organizations and shelters like ourselves, it's a massive challenge for us because we have economic problems in the country. We have COVID that had also taken a lot away from the focus in terms of raising funds. We have the rioting that happened now, which set us back even more. So fundraising I see to be a challenge for many, many organizations. And the funny thing is when there's an economic decline, the need for psychosocial services increases. So you have a greater need for the services that we provide in the NGO sector. But yet the support and the funding is a problem. And I believe that we need to have more conversations around this. But certainly, in terms of fundraising, we desperately, all the shelters need funding because we have bills to pay. We have accounts, we have needs to be met. And whilst we might have supplies and food, we still have bills to pay. And I think that is something that we're all gonna need extra support. Yeah. In time to come, in the year to come, and for the rest of this year, we have already seen a tremendous decline in our funding sources. And we are a very well-established organization.
Yeah.
We're 70 years this year. We're actually celebrating our 70th anniversary. So just to also give you an example, we had plans for this year to celebrate this achievement, and all our plans had to be put on hold. Mainly because of COVID, we couldn't really plan much. And secondly, now we've had all the unrest, and we've had companies don't have the kind of resources that we to freely give to NGOs.
Yeah. Gail, we wish you all the best, and thank you for coming through and raising that plight, and obviously a lot in society listening to what we are talking about, and hopefully there's somebody who will stretch out a hand there and give some assistance. Social worker and manager at the Kerr House, that is Gail Scheider there for us tonight here on In Focus. In a moment.